Hi, my name's Jodie and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys the 21 books that I want to read in 2021. So I can't believe that it's 2021 already. It's absolutely flown by and 2020 just went way too fast, and yeah, I'm so confused by time. I think it's to do with lockdown and everything else that's gone on. It's all very weird, but it's a new year, which means new reading goals, new reads, rereads even, and yeah, I'm very excited for the reading year ahead. Really hoping that in 2021 I can get through a lot of books that I've had on my shelf for a while, start some series that I've been meaning to read for a long time, finish some series and just read some really good books. There are a lot of popular books that you will have seen a lot on BookTube and in the book community that I haven't read, so I definitely want to prioritise those reads as well in 2021 and really try and read a lot of the popular books that I just haven't gotten to before. Yeah, my reading goal for 2021 is 70 books. So last year I read 100 books and my goal was 50. So I'm playing it safe and making it 70 this year. Hopefully I can hit that, but who knows what the year will be like. There should be a video of my 2021 most anticipated releases coming as well. So obviously I'm not going to talk about books that are due out in 2021, just ones that I already own that I want to read. And I will also be doing a series I want to start in 2021 as well. So there will obviously be some books that aren't featured in this video, but there's still more books that I do want to read in 2021. They're just the first book in a series, if that makes sense. So that will be coming in a separate video, so definitely look out for that. But yeah, I have a lot of books to get through today because obviously talking about 21 books is going to take a lot of time and I don't want this video to be too long, so let's just jump straight into it. I will have all of these books linked in the description box down below so you can read the full synopsis there as well. But yeah, we're just going to get straight into it with no particular order. So the first book I have is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I want to read this simply because I absolutely adored the Netflix adaptation of this. I think it was such a good show and I really enjoyed it, so obviously I really want to read the book. I've heard very mixed reviews for the book and that apparently it's not that similar to the show, so I don't know how I'll feel about it when I do read it, but it's one that I certainly do want to read. This is kind of like a horror, ghost, supernatural-ish kind of story. It's probably one I won't read until October, so quite a long time away, but certainly one that I definitely do want to get to in 2021. So next up is Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. So this is one I'm very excited about. I have saw Books with Chloe talk about this and say that it was amazing, and I've seen a lot of good reviews for it. I got this in a fairy loot box quite a while ago, and at the time I was very excited for it and really wanted to read it, but it's just one that I've just never picked up and I definitely want to make time for it in 2021. I got the sequel. I don't know if it actually is a sequel, it might just be like a companion novel, but I got Vicious Spirits for Christmas, and obviously now because I have that book I would really love to read both of these together in 2021. This is a book that is heavily inspired by Korean folklore. We have Gumi Young, who is the main character. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I did watch the author's video on how to pronounce her name, but I'm really not good with pronunciation, so I do apologise if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but believe me, I really did try multiple times. But she is what's called a nine-tailed fox, and she survives by consuming the energy of men, so just for that alone we already love her, like, yeah. And she does this, but she is very picky with who she does this to. So she's quite a softie and she's got quite a kind heart, so she doesn't want to just like basically kill just anyone. She kind of goes after like criminals and really bad people. And this is set in modern day Seoul in Korea, and on one day she meets a guy in the woods who's being attacked by a goblin, and from there things kind of change. They start to fall for each other and that's where the story goes. That's pretty much all I really know about this book. I don't know an awfully lot about it and I'm just really intrigued by the Korean folklore. After watching the author's video as well, you can really see how much this book means to her. I just think this is going to be a really fun read, and like I said, I heard so many great things about this, and because I have the second book I really want to binge both of them together. Next up is a book that I am very excited about. This one is actually a sequel to a book I read in 2020. So this is the sequel to Serpent and Dove by Shelby Muhorin, and this is Blood and Honey. So because this is a sequel, I'm not going to go into depth of the synopsis because I don't want to give any spoilers, but I read the first book in 2020 and I absolutely adored it. It was so good. But for me, that book kind of ended in a way that gave me everything I wanted. I didn't really feel like it necessarily needed too much of a sequel. Like, I get that there's more to the story, but it ended kind of just, I was kind of happy with it how it was. So although I'm very, very excited about this, part of me wasn't too fussed on seeing what happened, which is why I didn't pick this up upon release straight away and haven't really had an urgent need to read it. That being said, I'm still very, very excited to see where the story goes, what happens to the characters, how their relationship progresses, and all those things. But for those of you who don't know, Serpent and Dove is just a really good YA fantasy. You have a really, really funny main character, you've got magic, witches, enemies to lovers. It's just, I absolutely adored it. So funny, it's so good, and I am very, very excited to read about these characters again. I just adore this main character as well. Next we have a book that is the second book in a series. I read the first book in 2020 and absolutely loved it, and I'm hoping that will be the same for this one. It is one that I have already started. So that is Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness. So this is the second book in the Discovery of Witches series. I absolutely love Discovery of Witches, as some of you guys may have seen before on my channel, and I'm a big fan of the show, and the second season of the show comes out in January and is loosely based from this book. This one I think would be a tough one to physically read because it's very historical, and I tend to find historical reads difficult sometimes. I find it really hard to kind of mush the history and the plot together. So for me, audio is just a better option for this, and plus I want to get through it very, very quickly. So I've been listening to it on audio and I am enjoying it so far. Yeah, I really want to read this because, like I said, season 2 comes out and I really want to read this series in 2021. I'd like to finish it as well. So obviously I would like to read the third book in the series too. But yeah, I'm very, very excited about this one because I really want to see what happens to Diana, what more powers she might get, and how she uses her powers, how she's going to fight the congregation, and all the good stuff that happened in the first book and in season 1. If you haven't watched the show or are debating the book, I'd highly recommend watching the show. It will give you a really, really good look into what the book's are. It is very, very close to the book. There are some differences, of course, but yeah, I'd highly recommend this show first, just so you can get a good sense of what the book's about. So next up we have These Violent Delights, and this is by Chloe Gong. So I'm very, very excited for this one. I received this in a furry loot at the end of 2020, and I wanted to read it straight away, but it just wasn't on my TBR, and I just didn't have time to. So this is one I definitely do plan to pick up very, very soon because it just sounds absolutely amazing, and I have heard really good things about this book. This takes place in the 1920s in Shanghai, and this is basically inspired by Romeo and Juliet, and I've never kind of read a retelling that's sort of based on Romeo and Juliet, so I think it'll be very, very fun and very, very interesting to see how that's done in here. But this has 2 rival gangs and loads of stuff happening in the Roaring 20s, and I think the 2 leaders of each gang start to fall for each other, and yeah, it just sounds amazing. 20s, Shanghai, gang rivalries, kind of enemies to lovers, I guess. Very, very excited to read this one. So next up we have a Brandon Sanderson book. So I haven't read any Brandon Sanderson before, and I just think that this is going to be the perfect introduction to his writing. This is one of his sci-fi novels. Now, sci-fi for me is one that I'm very, very funny about. I'm very, very picky with my sci-fi. I am a bit nervous about this just because, like I said, not the biggest fan of sci-fi. I do like it, it's just I do struggle sometimes to get on with it, and I don't know if I'm going to like Brandon Sanderson's writing. I really hope so, because he's probably one of the biggest names in sci-fi and fantasy. Anyway, this is going to be my introduction to his writing, and I am excited. So this is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the US edition. I do also have the UK edition, which you can probably see behind me. I actually received that in a furry loot box when it first came out a couple of years ago, so I have been meaning to read it for a long time. But this is, like I said, a sci-fi. It follows a girl called Spencer, who basically has always dreamed of becoming a pilot, helping to protect her race and her planet from this other alien race, I think. And her father was a disgraced pilot because he deserted his team. She doesn't really know why, and everyone kind of holds it against her. So she's got a chip on her shoulder and something to prove, and she wants to become the best pilot that there possibly is. It says an accidental discovery in a long forgotten cabin might just provide her with a way to claim the stars. And that just sounds so intriguing. I've heard very, very good reviews for this book, and I would like to try and read some more sci-fi, and I think this is definitely the best pick. And like I said, one that's been on my shelf for quite some time, so I really do want to get to this and its sequel, and hopefully I really, really enjoy this. So next up we have one that I am very excited about. I really, really want to read this, and I'm pretty sure the sequel to this maybe comes out in 2021, unless I've made that up, but I'm pretty sure that it does. But that book is Blood Hair by Amelie Wen Zhao. I just love this cover for a start, it's stunning. But I believe this follows a princess called Anastasia, and her father is the emperor Nora and he is murdered, and she is framed for his murder because she has an affinity for blood magic, which is something that a lot of people are a bit like, it's a bit of a taboo, and flees the castle because she's been framed as the culprit. She is now going on this kind of journey to find out who her father's real killer is and to clear her name, but she also meets a crime lord, I believe, and their paths intertwine and the story goes from there. So yeah, I'm very excited about this one. This just sounds really good, and I have heard mixed reviews for this, so I'm very intrigued to see if I'll enjoy this or not. And like I said, because the sequel is coming out soon, I would like to try and get to this one sooner rather than later. So next we have one that is a little bit different for me because I do tend to read mostly fantasy, and I don't really know exactly what genre this is except for fiction, but I do know that it's a very popular one and a lot of people have said it's a really hard-hitting kind of story. So that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So I got this when it first came out and it's just kind of been sat on my shelf, and it's just one that I really do want to read just because of the reviews I have heard for it. But this follows Nora, and she has basically lived a life of misery and regret, and she gets the chance to kind of change all this when she goes into the Midnight Library. And the books in this library enable Nora to live out a life as if all these horrible things that have happened in her real life had never happened before. Synopsis says that things aren't always what they seem to be, and her trying to change the past can have really dangerous consequences both on herself and the Midnight Library. It says, before time runs out, she must answer the ultimate question: what is the best way to live? And I have heard that this is a really good book. It has a lot of character development, it's quite emotional, so I'm very excited to read this because it just sounds a bit different, and I feel like it's one that's probably going to pleasantly surprise me. And like I said, because I've heard so many good things about this, I really want to check it out for myself. So hopefully I get to this in 2021, but we shall see, because it is a bit of a different read for me. So next up we have one that I always try to read every October and just never seem to, and this is one I am very excited about. That is Never Contented Things by Sarah Porter. So just look at the cover, so creepy, I love it. But this is basically a really dark fairy story, and I love fairy or fae, whatever you want to call them. I love anything that involves them. I just love them. I don't know what it is. This is far from the likes of Sarah J Maas or Holly Black though. This is very dark and very sinister, and I think this brother and sister are kind of kidnapped by these fairies, and they learn all this really dark stuff about them, and they've kind of got to like use all of that to try and break free and save themselves. And we have like a fairy prince in here and stuff, and yeah, I can't wait to read this because I love a dark story and a dark twist, and I just think this will be a lot of fun to read. So yeah, I really want to read this one, and I just love this cover so much. Then next we have a sequel. So I read The Beautiful in 2020 and I absolutely loved it. It was so good, it was so gothic, it was atmospheric, it was just amazing, and I really loved how there was vampires in there, but vampires weren't the main like focus, they just existed in the world. I thought that was really fun. And this is the sequel, which is The Damned by Renee Addier. So this was one I almost started just after October, after Vampathon, because I read The Beautiful for Vampathon, and then I ended up just prioritizing other reads over this one, and I just never got to it. So obviously, because of how much I love The Beautiful, I really do want to read the sequel. I really want to see where the story goes, and the way it ended as well, it was on quite a cliffhanger, so I'm so excited to get to this and see how it unfolds. It's just I have heard a lot of mixed reviews, so I really hope I do love it, but I am a little bit scared and a little bit apprehensive about where this might go. Next we have The Bone Witch by Rin Chapeko, and I'm so excited to read this one. I've had this on my shelf for a good few years now. I'm totally in love with the cover. I love everything about the sound of this book, but for some reason I've just never picked it up. Yeah, I want 2021 to be the year I finally read this series. I think there's maybe 3 books. There might be more, there might be less, I'm not sure. But yeah, I definitely want to read this. This follows T, but she is a bone witch and she has the gift of necromancy. They are the most feared and ostracized women of the entire kingdom, and her magic is a very powerful magic because it goes beyond the world of the living, and it is quite a feared magic as well. And as a result, she has to leave her homeland and go and train with this older bone witch, and she decides to put everything into learning to become an Asha. And an Asha is someone who's able to control like these beasts with their magic, but there is a war brewing between the 8 kingdoms, and she needs to really like pull herself together because she's gonna have to fight in this war and kind of save everyone. So yeah, I'm very excited excited for this because this is meant to be an amazing fantasy series, and it sounds so good and so creepy, and I love the idea of a bone witch. Yeah, I think this sounds amazing. So I'm very, very excited to read this because I know this is quite an old one, and a lot of people on booktube or within the book community have read this series before, and I really want to get to it because, like I said earlier, I need to read some of those popular books or series that I just haven't before. Then next is a book that I featured in a video at the start of 2020. I got this when I was in New York. It was a total random buy. I only got it because it's like an ostentatious novel, so I was intrigued. That is Dangerous Alliance by Jennieke Cohen, I think is how you pronounce her name. I love this cover so much. I'm not a huge fan of pink, but I just think this is so aesthetically pleasing. This follows Lady Victoria, and basically she must find a husband, and she's been like settled down on her own, like she's just been happy like going as she pleases, but now everyone in the family is kind of relying upon her to find a husband, and the only kind of experience she has is through the novels of Jane Austen, and so she goes out into society to try and find someone and try and save her family. There's a bit of a plot against her here, and a few kind of complicated romances, and I just think this sounds so intriguing. I love the Jane Austen kind of vibe to this, and I just think it's going to be really, really fun to read. Plus it is a kind of romance contemporary, and I just don't read enough of those, so I'm very, very excited to include one in my 21 books for 2021. Next up is one that I want to read purely for the cover. This is one of my favourite illustrators, and I bought this book so many years ago, and it's just sat on my shelf and begged to be read for a long time. I haven't heard too many things about this, although I think it might have been shortlisted for a Costa Book Award a few years ago or something. That is The Liar Tree by Frances Hardinge, and just look at this cover, like it is absolutely stunning. I just love Chris Riddell's illustrations so much, and apparently this is quite a dark story, and it basically follows a girl called Faith who finds her like disgraced father's journal, and it's like a journal apparently of a madman's thoughts and all this to do with the tree that tells lies and stuff, and then Faith goes in search of this tree. That's kind of all I know about it. It's just meant to be very dark, very thrilling. Yeah, I just really want to read it because Chris Riddell has illustrated it, and I've had it on my shelf for a very long time. So next up we have a thriller, and this is one, well, it's not really a thriller, I think it's more of a slasher, but I've had this on my shelf for such a long time and just never gotten to it. 2021 may as well be the year that I do finally get to it. That is The Final Girls by Riley Sager. So I remember when this first came out, I saw this everywhere and I got it and then just never read it. So this might be one that I maybe keep towards Halloween because obviously it'll be more fun to read then, but I don't know, we shall see how I feel throughout the year. I honestly can't even remember a lot about this at all. All I know is that the Final Girls are like a club of girls who are all like the only surviving people of like group who were murder victims. So I'm very, very intrigued by that. I think that sounds really, really cool, and I'm just interested to see like how all these different people with all these different like horrible like histories are all going to mix together, and obviously something bad is going to go down. I think basically one of the girls who is part of this Final Girls Club is killed, and then I don't know if they maybe all band together to find out who done it or if they're getting picked off one by one, but this just sounds so interesting. I love the idea of all of these girls being like the lone survivors of all these tragedies and like murders, and then they start to get picked off one by one. I just think this is going to be a really good thriller. Very, very excited. I've heard very good things about Riley Sager's writing, so I'm very, very excited to give this a go and see what all the hype is about. So next I have two classics, and really I should have spoke about one of these with that Jane Austen inspired novel, but one of the classics I really want to read in 2021 is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. So I'm actually going to be buddy reading this with Caitlin, and I'm very, very excited to do that. I had a goal last year to read 5 classics, didn't even read one. To be honest, I haven't really dipped into the world of classics that much. I haven't really read a proper classic, so I've been meaning to do that for a long time. I just know I don't really vibe with the dense and classic writing style, so I'm hoping Austen will get me through it and I will enjoy it. Yeah, I want to read Pride and Prejudice. I love the 2005 adaptation of the book in the movie form with Keira Knightley. Absolutely love that film. It's such a masterpiece, and I'm hoping obviously the book will be better, but I mean, we shall see. I don't know. I'm hoping I like it, and I'm hoping I like Jane Austen. But this will be my first Austen novel. I'm gonna go with Austen as my first classic of the year, and I'm hoping that it's gonna be a good one. And then the next classic I really want to get to is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is obviously one that is very, very talked about, and I just really, really want to read it. I don't know that much about it at all, and I'm going to leave it that way because I feel like with these classics, if I know a bit too much, then I'll probably just talk myself out of reading them. But yeah, I want to read this because it is one of the most famous classics, and I have this really, really pretty edition, and I really want to read it. So next up is a kind of like superhero-esque, anti-hero type book, and I really want to read this because I've had it for so long. It's by my favourite, Sarah J Maas, and I haven't read it, and I don't know why I haven't read it, like I've no idea. So this is Catwoman Soul Stealer, and yeah, don't think I really need to go into too much detail what this is about. This obviously follows Selena, who is Catwoman, and this takes place 2 years after she left Gotham City, and she comes back as a new person called Holly, I think. And Batman is off somewhere else, and she is joined as Catwoman by Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. And I'm just so excited to read about Catwoman and also the other two, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, the anti-heroes together. So excited, can't wait to read this. I think it's going to be really, really fun. I love superheroes, as you all probably know, so I really want to read some more superhero-esque stories, and obviously this has been on my shelf for a while. It's a good pick. Then following on from that, I have a book that is very, very similar in terms of it is a superhero book, and that is Wonder Woman Warbringer. So it's no secret that I love Wonder Woman, favorite superhero, adore her. I've read the graphic novel version of this story and I loved it so much. It was so good, so I'm so excited to read it in the book format. I think I'm obviously gonna love it, but I want to read it in 2021 because again, it's another one that's been on my shelf for a while, and I love Wonder Woman so much, so it'll be so fun to read this. And yeah, I'm just very, very excited. Oh, and this is by Leigh Bardugo, if I didn't say that already. Then following on from that, I have another 2 Leigh Bardugo books. So one of these I'm so embarrassed about, and I say it all the time, and you guys have probably guessed what it is, but that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This one has been on my TBR nearly every single month for the past year, and yeah, I just don't know why I haven't read it. I always seem to prioritise other books. I never get to it. I don't know, like I just know I'm gonna love this so much when I do read it. It's a dark academia kind of book. It's got murder mystery kind of in it. We've got like supernatural stuff going on. We've got like a cult, like secret society. It's got everything that probably makes a really, really good gripping book. So why I've never read it, I just don't know. But I'm very, very excited to get to this, and I really, really, really hope that at the end of 2021 I'll be looking back on this video saying yes, you finally read that book. If not, it will be very, very embarrassing. Then the next Leigh Bardugo book is one that I'm actually not very excited about at all. So this is the 3rd and final book in a trilogy of Leigh Bardugo's, which is the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So this is Ruin and Rising. You probably all know I'm not a huge fan of this series. I read the first 2 books in 2020. The first book was fun, it was good, but I thought it was very overhyped. I was left kind of like, is that it? Like, you know, I just wasn't really like that impressed by it. Don't get me wrong, it was still fun, it just wasn't anything special. It was just very medical to me. Please don't come for me. I know a lot of you guys will absolutely adore this series, but it just wasn't it for me. The final book in the trilogy. The second book for me was just a total disaster. I just don't get why it exists. Like, it does not further the plot anymore. There's hardly any character development. It made me hate the main character and some of the side characters even more. And I think my main issue is that I just don't feel emotionally attached or invested in any of these characters, which is why I just don't really care about the series, and I just don't really get where the plot is going. Like, I don't know, like this was kind of made out different to me. I thought this was going to be a straight up romance between the Darkling and Alina, and that's just not what it is. And I just felt like the first 2 books are just Alina telling us about her powers over and over again. Like, that's literally the plot. Like, nothing really happens, and they're kind of still in the same position they were like at the end of the first book. I don't know, just not really a fan. So I am sorry if you love this series. But that being said, I really want to get to the 3rd book. I don't like not finishing series. I have to finish them, and if I can make my way through the first 2 books, then surely I can get through the 3rd and final book. I have heard that this one is a lot better than the second, and a lot of people think that maybe the second book kind of should have been mushed into maybe the 1st or 3rd, and that this one's a lot better. I'm hoping that is the case. I hope this makes up for the absolute awfulness that was the second book, in my opinion. So I am sort of excited to read it in a sense because I know that it's ending and I can be done with this. But I'm also excited because I'm hoping that it actually gets good. So yeah, I'm sorry if you really love this series, it's just not it for me, but I do still want to finish it, and I am excited for the Netflix adaptation. I think I'm going to love that a lot more than the books. And yeah, a lot of people have also pointed out to me that her writing in this series is very different to all her other books, so that's good because I plan to read The Ninth House and some of her other stuff in the year. So yeah, I'm glad that the writing's a bit different, but I mean, hopefully I'm pleasantly surprised by this one, but we shall see. So lastly is a book that is the first book in a series, so I probably will still include it in my series I want to read video, but I'm going to include it in this one anyway. That is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and I really want to read this. I've spoken about this in some other videos. You've probably heard a lot of people talk about this both online and in real life because everyone loves this and everyone sings its praises, and probably rightly so. Very excited for this. So I have been told there is a lot of trigger warnings for this book, so if you're planning to read this or you are after this video, please check out the trigger warnings first before you go into this book. This isn't a kind of nice lovey-dovey fantasy-esque book. This really does delve into some pretty dark history and some really dark themes. It's a story of war, revenge, hope, power and madness. It's got a lot of different themes and a lot of different things going on, and it does touch upon some really important issues, I'm told, as well. Yeah, I really want to read it. I think I'm gonna love it. Everyone I've seen rate this has rated it 5 stars. Like, everyone. I'm not exaggerating. I've never seen this kind of 5-star rating by so many people for this one book, so I'm very excited to see if I do enjoy it, and I'm also really intrigued to see how these elements of history and folklore are represented in this book and how all 3 books will play out as well, because I do own all 3 of these and I do plan to read all 3 in 2021. But yeah, I'm very excited for this. I will have a link down below so you can read the full synopsis because I don't know tons about it. I just know there's a lot of myth and gods and history and all these kind of things in there, so very excited for this because I think it will be an amazing fantasy book that's really going to have like a very powerful impact as well. So that does conclude the 21 books I'd like to read in 2021. So obviously there was a lot more than just these, and I didn't even touch upon graphic novels or manga or my anticipated releases or anything. There will be a separate video for anticipated releases that are coming out and also for series that I want to start in the new year as well. So definitely look out for both of those videos because they will be coming soon. I'm still rolling out my 2020 content throughout January, maybe even February, but yeah, there's a lot of those to come as well. If you are planning to read any of these books, then please let me know in the comments, or if you've actually read them, please let me know what your thoughts were as well. Very excited to read all of these. I really hope that I do read a lot of these. I don't expect to read every single one of these because I never stick to TBRs, but I'm hoping that when I watch this back at the end of the year, I can be pretty happy with the amount that I did manage to read, and I really do need to get through a lot of these. Some of them have just been on my shelf for way too long now. So yeah, I really do hope that you guys did enjoy this video. All of these books will be linked in the description bar down below, along with all my social medias, my Amazon wish list, and all of those other things that you might need to know. But yeah, I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you give this video a like and comment as well, I'd really appreciate it. I really do appreciate everyone who takes the time to like and comment on my videos. It absolutely makes my day, and I love chatting with you guys in the comments. Please do that if you have the time. But if you are new here and you aren't already subscribed, I make bookish videos a couple of times a week. I do reading vlogs, TBR videos, reviews, all different kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in any of those things, then consider subscribing. It would be really nice to have you join us here on my channel. I still hope you guys enjoyed this video anyway, and you're having a really nice day or evening wherever you are. I wish you all the best for 2021, and I hope you read a lot of good books this year, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!